Hello YouTube and African people and people in general. This is your boy Afroade coming in once again, and this time I have a top 10 for you guys. I'm going to talk about my personal top 10 favorite African kings and leaders of all time. Alright, so with that said, let's get into it. Number 10, we're going to talk about Osei Tutu. Osei Tutu was actually the founder of the Ashanti Empire, or the Ghana Empire, which is actually modern day Ghana. This empire was very powerful and actually encompassed a huge majority of modern day Ghana, and even extended a little bit more outwards to the west and east as well. Okay, and Osei Tutu was essentially known for establishing the Golden Stool, which essentially by legend was said to establish him and his dynasty as the ruler of the Ashanti Empire when the stool landed on his lap actually instead. And then he went on to create the Kumasi as the capital of the empire as well. The reason why the Ghana Empire is so important and essential is because to learn about is because it was an empire that lasted a very long time, and the reason why it lasted a very long time is because it was one of the few African nations to incorporate firearms to defend itself against other plundering Africans and neighbors, as well as the European expansion as well. Okay. The next African leader I want to talk about is Akhenaten. Akhenaten was an Egyptian pharaoh who lived years ago, and he's important because he was one of the few leaders at the time to establish an important aspect that still influences us till this very day. That important aspect is monotheism. Okay, he was the one that established his god Aten, and essentially that was the one god that they were supposed to worship. Okay, that was a significant impact that he had throughout history. And the reason why, now of course Akhenaten, this wasn't taken too kindly with the Egyptians, but it's also good to note that if for most people who don't know, Akhenaten is actually the father of Tutankhamun, and Nefertiti was actually Akhenaten's wife. Okay, the next person we're going to talk about is another Egyptian pharaoh, and this Egyptian pharaoh was named Ramses II. Okay, he's an important pharaoh to learn about. The reason being because he was known for the defeat of the Hittites at the Battle of Kadesh. Okay, now this Egyptian ruler was not also known for defeating the Hittites as well, but also securing Egypt's borders from its enemies. Okay, so he went so far as to defeat the Nubians, he went so far as to defeat the Libyans, and he also went so far as to defeat sea raiders called the Sheridan. And then he actually even defeated a local prince who was a prince of the modern day area of modern day Palestine, Israel. Wherever you sit on the whole I'm not gonna get political. Wherever you sit on the whole situation with Israel and Palestine, well, that area would be the area where he defeated the prince. But enough of that. So then he also, like I said, defeated the leader, the Hittites at the Battle of Kadesh as well, which was a very climatic battle. It was thought that 5,000 chariots essentially clashed together. Okay, so that was a significant portion that he did. He's known as Ramses the Great, and was known for establishing and protecting Egypt's borders. Now, the next African leader we're going to talk about essentially is going to be Sunni Ali. Sunni Ali was an African leader in the Western Sudan, and Sudan essentially just means lands of the black, so just land of the black. So we're talking about basically West Africa. Okay, that's what people like to call the Sudan and all that. But essentially, he was the leader of the Songhai Empire. Okay, and he controlled this empire for a very long time, and he was the leader of this empire that was very renowned for winning countless battles and won every single last one he fought. Okay, he's significant because he actually was able to establish a lot more territory than the predecessor, the Mali Empire, which actually ended up conquering Yao, which is part of the Songhai Empire. Okay, so he went and conquered a significant portion of the Mali Empire, as well as conquering other like territories as well that were not part of the Mali Empire at all. Okay, he ruled way more territory than the Mali Empire ruled, and was pretty great at what he did. All right. The next African leader we're going to talk about is Samori Toure. He was a devout Muslim and a West African leader, and would establish the Wazulu Empire. Okay. And then the next African leader we're gonna talk about again is gonna be Askia Muhammad the Great. Okay, he was another great African leader who was renowned for his religious tolerance and also being a devout Muslim and leading his empire strictly by Islamic law. Okay. And now after that, another one of my personal favorites that we're going to talk about is going to be Menelik II. Menelik II was an Ethiopian king at the time of colonization of Africa. Now, he did a lot of amazing things. Well, depending on how you look at it, you know, he expanded his territory, the Ethiopian territory, to what it is today. And on top of that, he's also responsible for defeating the Italian invasion into his homeland to colonize Ethiopia. Okay, his story is very interesting because as they were fighting, his queen actually prevents his men from retreating and says, "You're not going to allow Ethiopia to become another colonized land like other African countries, not Ethiopia." Okay, and that essentially like brings a lot of morale, and then they end up defeating the Italians. But Menelik was the one that led his men into battle against the Italian invasion, and he only lost about 10% of his troops too. And he decides that, no, this is okay, you know. But on the Italian side, they lose about 60% or even a significant portion of that. All right, and this causes a lot of like heat back at Italy, to the point where they have no choice but to sue for peace. Alright, so Menelik II is definitely up there. Another one we're going to talk about is Shaka Zulu. You guys already know who this guy is. You saw too many videos about him. Alright, and Shaka Zulu is renowned for his bullhorn tactic, in which he used in great effect against other Africans as well as against the British. Okay, so he was able to establish his modern day borders and establish his own kingdom. And everywhere he went, even the British, even other Africans, when they saw him, they were scared. Alright, everybody knew when they saw Shaka, they ran. Alright, and Mansa Musa is going to be number 2. As stated in my previous video about the richest man on the planet, Mansa Musa, he was a man that essentially took a pilgrimage to Mecca, and as stated in my last video, he caused a huge economic downpour in Egypt because of how much gold he had and how much money he had. He gave it to the poor and to the needy, but it was an inflation, so now he had to borrow a lot of money back to prevent that from happening, to save the economy. But it still took years for them to come back from that. Okay, so that's how rich this man was. All right, $400 billion. So Jeff Bezos ain't got nothing on him. All right, and the last king I want to talk about is King Taharqa. King Taharqa was the king, or might as well be emperor at that point, of Egypt and Nubia, and even Israel for a significant part. He was known for defending the Jews against the coming conquering Assyrian Empire. Okay, now eventually they were pushed back, but the issue is the fact that he was able to defend the Jews was extremely important. Alright, because we know how throughout history Jews were always persecuted and were always attacked, but he actually comes up and defends the Jews, and against the Assyrians. Okay, he defends his Judean allies against the Assyrian Empire. Alright, now like I said, they were eventually pushed back, but he fought hard and he defended his allies, and he was known for treating his people with complete respect and being a great leader. Alright, he was known for being the emperor or the king of both Egypt and Kush, and his territory spanned from Khartoum, which is where the Blue and White Nile meet, all the way up to like Israel. Okay, now thank you for watching this. I appreciate you guys taking the time out to see this video. I hope you learned something new. Please like and subscribe, And please catch me in my next video. We're going to be talking about the top 10 African queens of all time. Thank you guys. Have a great day.